Good evening, I'm Josh Ellsworth and welcome to Stahls TV. Tonight's class is creating artwork for Spiritwear with CadworxLIVE, and we have near record attendance in tonight's class, and I think you guys really like the evening classes. So throughout the presentation, as always, you can chat in questions. We'll have Joe Kaczynski that will be helping to answer those questions throughout tonight's presentation. We have a pretty aggressive schedule of showing you how to create artwork and going through quite a few lessons over the course of 1 hour. All of these lessons are geared towards Spiritwear, as you might imagine. And so we're going to show you how to create multiple ways really to create multicolor graphics for multicolor glitter designs for Spiritwear, which is extremely popular. We're going to take that to the next level and show you how to incorporate patterns within your multicolor Spiritwear, not only for a full front design but also the trending pocket size logo. We're going to show you also how to take that concept and apply it to these oversized jerseys that are extremely popular, and show you ways with CadworxLIVE that you can create to print the full back panel on these oversized garments. Also give you some sources where you could purchase those garments. And last but not least, we'll cover the popular knockout design technique and give you some tips on how to execute this look with CadworxLIVE. So once again, I'm Josh Ellsworth with Stahls TV. We have a full live class schedule on stahlstv.com if you'd like to attend any upcoming classes. I know we have a whole bunch of first-time attendees, so we'd encourage you register for stahlstv.com, and hopefully you enjoyed tonight's presentation. Let's head over to the computer and jump into CadworxLIVE. So first, CadworxLIVE is an online design program. You simply need to log in through CadworxLIVE.com and you can register for a free account. Once you're in CadworxLIVE.com, you have two options, and I know a lot of you already are members because you signed up through the announcement on CadWorx. You can launch the Design Studio or launch the Easy Teams. What both of these programs have in common is that they're online-based designers, meaning I can use them on a PC or a Mac computer. I can design from my home office, or I can design anywhere, even from a hotel room. And so once you've launched a design studio, which is what we're going to use today, because that's really where we're going to do art creation from a design standpoint. And so we've already taken the time to launch the design studio, and you can see you get a quick start menu screen where you can easily access files that will be indexed and saved under your login. You can pull up clip art, you can import a file, add text, just begin to create in the system. Now, one of the main things we wanted to show you tonight is multicolor glitter design. So we have some basic tutorials on CadWorx that are already indexed under stahlstv.com under the software tutorials. So if you need to learn the basics of CadWorx, I'd suggest you start there. Tonight's class is going to spend time on more of a project basis and assume you have the prerequisite learning of the basics. So we'll start by just dropping some text onto our screen. The CadWorx text editor is very simple to use, and we're just going to use the word glitter and create a multicolor glitter design and show you some techniques for that. So font change, very quick and easy in the system. There's a lot of preloaded fonts in the system that you can use. You can also upload your own TrueType font. But once you open that font, select your specific font that you want and size it, we're ready to start adding multicolor. Now, for those of you that are vinyl cutting and heat applying stuff, you know that glitter cannot be layered. It's one of those products that isn't as durable when it's layered glitter on glitter. And for that reason, when we work with glitter, we have a couple different methods that we can use to get a multicolor look. One of my favorite methods is what I call the sort of gap outline. And so with the text on the screen, I'm simply going to click Add Effect. There is a whole host of multicolor effects under the contour menu, and you can see gap outline being a choice. Basically, this is a way to create garment show-through on your logo. So if you add that gap outline, you can of course change the color to get a better visualization of it, and then you can even start to mess with some of the offset distance to thicken up or even make it closer or further away from your original text. This is a great way to get multicolor bling all in a small detailed area and have it conform to the characters or the text that you've created. So that is a simple gap outline. Basically, once you drop that onto your screen, you can size it accordingly and then when we send it to the cutter we have multicolored glitter. Now I'm going to make a duplicate copy of this to show you some other methods for just with basic text to create multicolored glitter. The one that I like the best is the trapping method because it really gives you that full bling on bling effect and condenses it in a very small area. So I'm going to double click on this text to get back to my text editor. I'm going to click the effect that's already been added down in the bottom part of the screen, which is the contour, and I'm going to remove that. Now let's go to add an effect. And I'm going to go back to that same contour menu, but this time I'm going to select just add a small contour. This is a multiple step process. So I'm going to open that small contour. I'm going to do a quick color change so we can get the visual of it. And you can see we have a full outline. Now, if you were to put this on the design screen and break this apart, you would see that there's a full background layer and a full foreground layer, which works for most heat transfer materials that are layerable, but unfortunately, it doesn't work that well for glitter. And so what we need to do is basically we're going to click OK, drop that onto the screen, and then we're going to separate by layers. And I'll show you this. So you go to Shaping, break it apart by colors. So we separate the red from the black. And what you'll see is I have that full background layer and that full foreground layer. So the next thing you need to do is you'll need to double click on the foreground text once more. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to look to add the inside contour to the text. This is really going to create the two layers that we need to create this trapping method. And so I'll click Add Effect. I'm going to click Inside Contour, which is a stock option under the contour menu. It often shows up in your first effects screen. And I'm going to do a very slight offset to the inside here. So I'm going to go with 0.03. Now this will change depending on the amount of tolerance you want or flexibility in your registering the colors and trapping it down. It will also change based on the size of your design, but I find 0.03 to 0.08 is usually a good range for trapping. So I'm going to click OK, complete that, and then I'll actually grab all of, break these apart by colors as well. Now what I have is my actual foreground glitter text, my background glitter text, and then a slight inside contour of my foreground. And so this slight inside contour is really the piece that I'm going to line up with my original background outline and use to sort of punch through or combine these two pieces. So I'll line those up. Now there are some centering tools here where you can select multiple objects and center middle or center the objects, which is a great way to make sure they're lined up perfectly. But once you've selected both individual objects, you can either go to Shaping, Combine, or Shaping, Back minus Front in order to complete the command. So I'll combine those. And basically what that did is it took those two components, combined them together, and now when I switch to a transparency down in the bottom, you'll see that that's show through. And what that allows me to do now is when I go to cut these two separate layers, instead of having a full background, I'll have a background, but I'll have these void areas where the text is going to perfectly fit inside. So if I bring this sort of layer to the front by selecting it and clicking Align, bring it to the front, you'll see how it perfectly sits in when you register it at the heat press and traps. So let me zoom to fit so we can take a close look at that. You see how you got the full red glitter and the full black glitter, and you're not getting that sort of gap outline or garment show through. This is a great way to get that bling on bling effect through the trapping method. And for those of you that are asking, this will be recorded and uploaded on Stahls TV. Probably we'll hit Stahls TV tomorrow, assuming everything goes well with the recording, and then you'll be able to watch this and go back through the steps in the particular lesson. Okay, so that's a quick way on text to do multicolored glitter. Gap outline or basically punching through with the trapping method. Either way, you get a really cool look. The next thing that I want to show you, I'm going to delete this gap outline text. I'll switch back off the transparency, and I'll also delete my background text. And I want to show you how to take a word mark like we saw in the opening piece with the West Troy design, and I want to show you how to drop that into a larger item to create a full design that's multicolored glitter. So let's bring something in like, let's go with just a basic piece of text, and we'll go with, put it on caps lock, South, and we'll pick a font, click OK. If I want to have ultimately a duplicate of that, I'm going to select and click Edit, Duplicate, and then let's go with South Troy. Click OK. I can size all the pieces. This is going to be the background text. One color of glitter is going to be in South Troy. And then I want to bring in another piece of text in the center. So what I'm going to do, I'll lay out the South Troy exactly as I want it. I can ultimately condense these together so it's reading as one object. It's sort of like the group function in CorelDRAW, if you're familiar with that. Click Condense. And now I'm going to add some text that I want to run through in the multicolored glitter. So let's say it's the South Troy Lions. Let's do a Lions word mark. I can ultimately select whatever font I want. So in this case, I'm going to go with a script-based font. Let's just look for a fairly basic script. Open that, and I have the Lions text that I'm going to drop through there. Now, something I'd recommend doing is once you have that text created, we want to weld it together, because if I go into the wireframe view, you'll notice that it's sort of not very clean as far as the cut lines on the script text. So what I'd like to do is anytime there's script, I like to make sure it's exactly the font that I want, and then you can actually go up to the shaping and weld command, and it will clean that up. So when I look at the wireframe view now, it's one clean piece in which to apply my contour. Now let's say this were yellow glitter or gold glitter going on top of the black text. Of course I couldn't layer it just like that. What I would need to do is sort of do that punch through technique that I was showing you earlier. And so rather than punch it exactly, which is going to create a registration nightmare, I want to do that same garment gap technique or that gap outline. So what I'll do is I'll double click the Lions text, and I'm going to add a very small contour or outline around the outside edge that I'm going to use to punch through. So I'll click small contour. Keep in mind this distance is going to be the actual garment gap distance. I'm happy with that visual, so I'll click OK. I'm going to select the object, going through the same steps, break it apart by colors, because that's going to allow me to independently move that gray background on top of my black text. Basically, when I do that, and I apologize, sometimes the mouse accidentally clicks out, that's why the text editor keeps coming up, but that will allow me to sort of select both of these pieces by dragging a box around them and basically go to shaping, back minus front, and what that does, it uses that background lines as sort of a punch through the background text. Now when I move that out of the way, you can see I have the perfect sort of outline and shape with which to insert my gold glitter. So now I create a really cool design with garment show through. I can cut this out of multicolors of glitter, and I can get the look like the opening garment that you saw, where we saw the same sort of concept. It said West Troy Cheer with gold and red glitter. This is how you create multicolored glitter. I could have effectively used the trap method as well. This is just one way to get it done. So we're moving along here. That's about a 10-minute tutorial roughly on multicolored glitter. I don't want to go too far on this before I start talking about how to really incorporate patterns into your Spiritwear. Patterns are something that are extremely popular. The zebra print used to be the most popular. Now it seems to be the chevron or the leopard print, the tribal prints. There's just all sorts of prints that are popular with patterns. So the cool thing about CadWorx is we've actually created multiple patterns already in the system. So you can just click Add Clip Art, and there's actually a snow leopard pattern, a tiger pattern, a giraffe pattern, and a chevron pattern that are available to you. So if I wanted to use the chevron pattern, which happens to be the most popular, I think, I can drop that onto the screen, and then I can start to sort of punch this in to different text elements. So let's say, for instance, I had the South Troy Lions. That was going to be the front of my fan jersey. Perhaps there's a number on the back of the jersey. So what I'm going to do is add text, and let's say this is for 2016, so let's just use number 16. We'll match the font with what we used on the front of the jersey. What I'd like to do, typically when I'm working with patterns, it always helps not just to have the pattern applied to the text and it free floating. Sometimes it's tough to make out the number. It always helps to have that sort of hard edge to set it off, and the gap outline is great for sort of setting off the edge of a pattern. So I'm going to add a gap outline to this. So I click on Contour, Gap Outline, open that up, and let's actually go to my original text. Instead of a 2-inch size on the original text, let's make that an 8-inch number, and that will drastically change the way the gap outline looks on it. So given that, let me take a look at a 1/4 inch gap outline. I think I like the 1/8 inch better. So you can also change, if I don't like the way this is running together, I can change the character spacing in between my text. So if I wanted to put a little bit more spacing for a better visual, even more so than that, I can start to get it so it's easier to weed and the characters stand independent of one another. Once you're good with it, click OK, and it's going to drop that onto my design screen. Now, you'll notice I'm completing similar steps in that I don't want this to read as one object because I only want to apply the pattern to the inside black text. So I'm going to break it apart by colors. I'm going to move my text within my pattern. Let me do a color change here just for a visual so I can see what's on top. I'm going to move my pattern actually to the front of the text, so I'll go to Align, to Front with that object selected. And now I'm going to select both objects together, and I should be able to go to Shaping, Back minus Front, and looks like I have to undo that because it didn't work correctly. Let me try that one more time. I'm going to select both objects, Shaping, Back minus Front. It should punch the chevron through the text. Of course, you want to make sure the chevron is completely covering the object and it's at the thickness or the size that you want it. And now I've effectively created a number 16 chevron print that's going to go on the back. Now, of course, I'd probably want this to color match, and let me do black for the outline. And now I have something for the front of the fan jersey and also in a number 16 for 2016 on the back. I could easily drop a player name, a kid's name, Johnny's mom, whatever it might be, to be able to move and sell this object. So this starts to combine sort of the most popular design elements with patterns, with glitter, with multicolor, onto Spiritwear, and this is sure to grow your sales. So that is a little bit about designing with patterns. Now, you can get crazy and do the trapping method with patterns. You can actually import your own custom patterns and vectorize them right within CadWorx. So there are a ton of options for things that you can do with patterns. And I apologize, I'm just going to close my email. I had a couple pop-ups there. I don't want to interrupt the presentation again. I apologize for that. So next, we've done our multicolor glitter. We've showed you a little bit about patterns. I want to move to decorating these oversized shirts. And these oversized shirts, if you don't know about them, they're tremendously popular. We have companies like Boxercraft that have the pom-pom jersey. Pennant Sportswear is a company. They have the Billboard Crew. J America has their own line that they call the Game Day jersey. That's the one we showed up in the front of the class at the beginning. So there's a ton of different blank apparel choices. But the beauty of these is that heat printing is perfect, and it's a great item for Spiritwear. You can make $30 plus per piece by the time you factor in labor, decoration cost, everything on this item. So it's really lucrative to show this and sell it. So I'm going to keep this on the screen because we're going to keep designing sort of in this South Troy Lions theme. Basically, I'm going to add a background. CadWorx has a great feature where you can add a background to the page, and we've actually uploaded the pom-pom jersey styles for you in the system. So if this is for the South Troy Lions, let's go with a black as our blank size, and it'll drop it right onto the screen. I can size it down, but this just shows you this is just a visual with which to place your finished design on. So you can create a virtual sample for your customer without having to print a whole shirt to show them a design concept. But the cool thing, basically we're looking, if I zoom to fit on this, we're looking to print a full sort of shoulder to shoulder print across the back of this. That's what makes these so popular, is the full sort of arch text across the back. And now, knowing that this is popular, we've taken some of the work and put some templates already within CadWorx. So you can simply click on the templates screen, and you can go down to the shoulder to shoulder folder for these types of transfers, and you can see we've already set up the sizing for the adult shirts and the youth shirts. There's basically two sizes that you're going to need, and we've created a single line or a two-line text layout for each. Now you can absolutely create whatever you want. Text is most popular across these, but if you want to create a clip art or a design, these are still helpful, because if this is an adult shirt, let me pull up my adult two-line layout. You'll see that if I zoom to fit on this, that it actually gives me the max design dimensions that I can design within to fit this. Now ultimately, I want to point out something that happened there that I can't go back on. Anytime you open a template from the left navigation, or any of these that don't show the plus sign, basically you're opening a new page. So you want to make sure you would have saved whatever you've created prior. Not that big of a deal since this is just a tutorial, but know that if I would have clicked Add Clip Art and sort of navigated to the template menu from there, I could have just added this to the existing design space and not necessarily opened up a whole new one. But we'll still keep the same theme. If this is for the South Troy Lions, I'll be able to double click the text. It already has the arch applied, so I can say South Troy. Of course, you can make a font change. All the functionality of CadWorx is there. If I want it to be Lions, I can double click lacrosse, and let's make it Lions. It drops it onto your screen, and then you can start to size to make sure it fits within the box. So we're looking to do a full sort of edge to edge of the box where we can, because we know this matches a 23-inch print recommendation from Boxercraft for their particular garments. And then I can hold the control button, click both text objects, and sort of center these to make sure it's going to be perfectly positioned. So that's a great way just to do a simple back layout. I always recommend glitter's great for these layouts because it's 20 inches wide, which gives me a great way to fit two designs across the width of glitter and really make efficient utilization of the material. But I cut this out, and then it's a two-step process over at the heat press to apply it. So it's not much more complicated than that, other than saying, hey, we have the layouts for you. You're able to add the backgrounds and customize. So let's say we're happy with this. I can actually delete the adult two-line max dimensions and making sure I don't resize this. Let me add my background back in since I lost it when I opened up a new page. We're going to stick with the black shirt. Let me align that to the back so it's not overtaking our text design. I'll zoom out so I can work with it a little better. Now I'm going to select the text object, and let's colorize this. Let's say it's going to be gold. Now I don't want to size my text down because that's the size I need it to cut. It's better just to zoom out here and actually size your garment up to create your virtual sample. That way you can save it and the text is going to be actually to your size that you want it. So you can size your garment up to create a visual here. And the really cool thing is, yeah, this is glitter, so what better way than to actually show it in glitter? And you can do that within CadWorx. I'm just going to grab this, I'm going to group this, condense it. I won't be able to change the text at that point once you condense it. But then when I double click on it, in CadWorx I can actually assign a new fill color. So if I click on the fill color, rather than picking a solid fill, I can select a texture, which allows me to upload a particular item. So it's pulling up all the photos that I've ever uploaded into CadWorx, but somewhere along the lines here is a glitter swatch. I'm not sure if I have a gold one, but let me see if I do. Pink will show nice enough visually, so I'm going to select the pink one, click OK, and then it will show me that entire design in pink glitter. So I can start to get the sparkle element in my virtual sample, and if I zoom to fit here, you'll really see it starts to stand out from all the other quotes that they're perhaps getting. So if you want to see that up close, let me just grab it, zoom to fit, and you can see the sort of glitter sparkle throughout. Now you may be asking, how can I get these swatches? And we make that easy for you over on Stahls TV. So you can actually go to stahlstv.com. It's free to register for an account. All you need to do is click on the Resources tab when you're logged in. Click on the Resources tab and you'll see the CAD-Cut Glitter Flake downloadable JPEGs. So when you click on that and you're logged in, you'll get a download button and you'll ultimately be able to download those JPEG swatches to apply to any logo, and you'll get a quick streamlined tutorial on how to create the virtual samples using those swatches. So just a great way to sell more Spiritwear and really just to present a good, better, best sales philosophy. You can show this South Troy lines in a basic design, and then I can say, hey, for $5 or $10 more, you can have it in glitter. And who's not going to go for the glitter if you're selling to the female demographic? And you'll be able to generate more profit on every piece you sell. Okay, so that's a bit about doing the oversized shirts. Once again, sources are Boxercraft, Pennant Sportswear, J America. To get those, and of course at Stahls from CAD Cut Direct, we manufacture all the heat transfer films and sell those direct to you, so we're confident we can get you some cost savings there. As you saw in the opening piece, if I wanted to apply the chevron print to this oversized, I mean, you can combine all of these things together to create a great look. The next tutorial that I want to go through is really how to create knockout designs. And so let me just open up a new piece here and bring up a knockout design to show you the concept. And perhaps one of the most popular techniques. And so in order to do that, I'm going to actually pull up one that has been completed previously to show you the concept and what we're looking to create. So I'll open up this Love Dance design, but you can see how the clip art has actually been punched through the background text. So this is a great way to do multicolor glitter-based designs, and it's also a great way to get something that's different from what everybody else is showing. A lot of people can sort of layer the clip art through the background text, but to actually have it conform to the characters of the text is really where the real beauty of this concept is when you're decorating for Spiritwear. It's something that really stands out from the rest. And so we're going to use the same sort of South Troy theme that we've been operating under to create this look. So what I'll do is I'll add some text to the screen. Now first, things first, you want to use a bold font, and you also want to reduce the character spacing slightly. And what that'll do is that just makes the text a little tighter together, and it gives you a better sort of canvas to punch through and create to make sure you're maintaining the legibility, if you will, of the clip art as well as the overall text and what the design is supposed to say. And so I'm going to duplicate this, and we're going to stick with that same South Troy theme as I mentioned. Type in Troy here. It should maintain that character spacing change that I've done since I made it off of my original copy that I already edited. And then if you want, you can have this overlap slightly as long as it's still legible. And if I go into the wireframe view, you'll see how that's sort of overlapping here. What I want to do is weld that together so it's going to read as one object. So I'll go up to Shaping, Weld, and you'll see it clean up over here. So now I have a design that I'm ready to operate within. At this point, you want to choose your clip art object that you want to punch through the design or create the knockout effect with. And so I'll just click on Add Clip Art. And a heart's really popular for Spiritwear because it shows, you know, school support or love of the team or the school. So we'll go with what works and continue to use a heart here. You want to make any sort of design modifications like rotating it, color changes, and so you can get your sort of complete visual of how you want that to look in the context of your actual design. Once you're happy with that, really what you want to start doing is making some duplicate copies. So you have some off to the side. And so I'll duplicate this, and I'll have an extra set so we can sort of walk through this in two ways. Now, the first way leaves you a little bit short on a couple things. Nothing you can't handle. It's a little bit easier to do, but basically we omit one step and you could have some complications depending on how accurately it does the punch through. So let me show you that way first. Let's make the duplicate copy of our text, which is required for both methods. And then basically what I'll do is I'll select my heart and my object, my background object, go to shaping, back minus front, and it should ultimately punch through to create the look that I'm after. Now I'll do a quick color change of my background text, hold the control key and select multiple objects here, both pieces, or just draw a box around them. And then I'm going to go to align and center those objects that I have selected. And there you have your visual of what we want the finished design to look like. So fairly easy so far, but keep in mind I have a full background yellow layer and I have a full foreground black layer. So what I would recommend doing is you can go to shaping, back minus front with those objects centered, and then basically it'll punch out so I no longer have that full outline yellow layer. But it leaves you a little short in this way, so we could effectively be done, but when we put the wireframe view on down in the bottom right, which I call the cutter goggles, we have a lot of cleanup here with extra detail we need to delete. Can you delete that? Certainly. All you got to do is select your object, go to shaping, and then you break it apart by curves or regions. It's just different levels of granularity. Curves is the finest detail. And then basically that leaves you breaking that object apart. It'll take a few seconds here for CadWorks to render it. And then I would go in and draw boxes around and sort of delete all the gunk out of the design so I'm prepared to cut. It's not going to be 100% perfect because it still leaves me these little cut lines. Honestly, it's nothing visually that would ever show up when you're cutting it. It's just simply a straight line that the cutter is going to cut and take up a little more cut time. Because when I go back out of the view, you can see it's a perfectly clean image and you don't even see those random cut lines, but they do happen on that gold layer. So that's one way to do the knockout design. Still is going to look great from a finished result, and it perfectly sort of fits up into this object. The next method I'm going to show you is actually if we take our original text design and we create a small offset effect. So I'm going to click that object, click Add Effect, and like usual I'm using that contour effect, and I'm going to go with a very small contour just to sort of compensate for those stray lines, and let's make it 0.04. It doesn't really need to be much at all. It's really tough to see, but if I change the color, let's say to a green, you can see that there's a small sort of outline around that whole object. So if you click OK, I'm going to break this apart by colors. And then ultimately, I have two different size objects. Now, for some reason, that didn't read it as one object. So let me just undo and try that again. So I want to make sure that it's reading this all as one. So I'm going to go, it is condensed already. All right, let's try double clicking it one more time. Add Effect. Go to my contour menu, do a small contour. Let's take it 0.05 so there's a little bit more for it to read around here. All right, there we go. Click OK, and then let me break that apart by colors. Okay, perfect. All right, so now you'll notice I have my original text and then I have my slightly bigger part of the design. This is going to help me sort of clean up any of those issues. So ultimately what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that heart and let's punch it through my larger design. So I'll bring the heart to the front. I'm going to make sure I don't resize anything. I'm just going to do that same shaping, back minus front command with both objects selected. It will punch through. Now, this whole sort of foreground is slightly larger than the background. So when I start to, let me just colorize it the same so we get the same visual. But when I center those objects by selecting them both, drawing a box around them both, going up to align and center those objects, it's actually going to sort of be slightly 0.05 or 0.04 larger than the background image. So now when I go to shaping, back minus front, it looks the same visually, but effectively what I've done, when I go into my wireframe view is gotten rid of all those sort of little excess marks. So that small little tweak saves me some random cuts and random steps in the process. So you can watch this recording, but just to review, you basically made a duplicate copy of your, you did a contour instead of a duplicate copy. So I had my original text, I did a small contour to the outside, and ultimately used that as my overlapping layer that I'm punching through. And so all of this is ready to send over to the cutter. And ultimately, as you know, if you've worked with CadWorx, when you work with vector cut, it's going to read the colors of the objects, and you'll be able to load your different colors of glitter for cutting, weeding, heat application. So there's multiple ways to do the knockout effect. I find the second way is the most useful across different design types, and it ultimately leaves me at the same finished result. So at this point, the last thing that we promised that we show you is just some ways to create circle text. So I'm going to open up a new page here, and circle text is something else that's very popular in Spiritwear, and circle text can be popular in a number of ways. So there's a circle text wizard right on the side. We're starting to see this become more and more popular just for the front of a tank top. A circle design is a great sort of design style for the front of tanks or t-shirts. It's also great for the front of oversized shirts, especially the two-tone ones that I'll show you about. So we're just going to click a basic circle text template, open it. Let's take it back out of the wireframe. I'm going to delete my background, there's no need for that, and let's just colorize this so we can see everything. Now I can start to create. So let's say this is for a dance school. The nice thing is I can click the Centertown Bulldogs, and let's say this is for Landsea Dance Academy. Click OK. And then we can put the name of the dance, particular program, or we can say established 1992, whenever it may be. So there's sort of an overarch and a reverse arch, and you can move all of these and change the arch, but it matches perfectly to the layout. Now you can easily change this if you want this to say 1992, or perhaps it's the year. You can delete those components and drop in a couple stars or hearts to customize with your circle text, and then you can ultimately bring in a dancer or whatever it might be. In this case, I'm just going to add some text. Let's just use the word love. And then I'm going to do a font change. So let's look at an athletic font and do this all-star font, which has a really cool look to it. You're seeing a lot of these fonts sort of trending in retail, Spiritwear. Make that a little bit larger. And then we can either do that same sort of multicolor glitter knockout effect, or we can weld this together. One thing I like to do is if I have an object like this, it would be really nice to not have this design traveling through the background of it. And so in order to get rid of that, there's one of two ways. Number one is I can draw a box around the whole design and sort of punch out a complete cutout where that's going to run through. Perhaps a better way is to punch out specific to this design. So what I'll do is let me group this whole background circle object with the text, because I'm done editing the text. So I'm going to go to shaping and condense that. I always like to operate with duplicate copies of my text in case I mess something up. I always have a backup. And so what I'll do is select that, hold the control to select my background objects, and I'm going to do the same thing where I can do the back minus front, or the trim command may even work here, but I'm a fan of back minus front. Now when I remove that, you see how it's sort of all broken up. I can break that whole piece apart, so I can select these little details and delete them out. I just go to shaping, break it apart by regions. Now I'm able to delete the sort of components to ensure, make sure you don't grab the right one, you can always undo. To make sure now when I go to cut this and lay it in, it's going to fit perfectly in there, and I'm still going to be able to see sort of the visual behind it. And you can easily do this out of multicolored glitter to create a cool effect. Now, to sort of take this to the next level, let me just group this together. And let's say I wanted to split this design across the front of a oversized jersey. And so it may be helpful if I add the background to the oversized jersey to show you what I mean. So I'm going to go this pom-pom jersey. It's really popular, these two-tone effects. Color blocking is really popular right now in Spiritwear. So if I drop this onto the screen, a cool visual would be to have basically this design in two colors. I would have it in black or charcoal across the front of the pink area, and I could have it in pink across the bottom of the charcoal area, effectively sort of marrying the design colors with the colors of the garment to create an all-over really cool effect. And so there's a couple different ways you can do this. So if we have a design like this, what I want to do in order to sort of split it and have half of the design be on the pink, half of it be on the charcoal, is actually trick the system. So you can't just rotate it through the system. As I found out, you actually have to grab and rotate the figure 90 degrees. So it's not reading it as you rotated the design in the system. Now you also want to make sure that the image at some point has been broken apart by regions and then sort of condensed back together as one object, and that will allow it to read just as a random object and not free-floating text. And so once you have it sort of rotated, this is sort of tricking it so it would be like splitting a baseball jersey, which would effectively split it directly down the center. And so I'll just double-click it, click on Add Effect, and then ultimately I'm going to select my split front effect, and I'm going to select split front 1, which is effectively what you would do for like a zip-up jacket or a hooded sweatshirt. You can see it's a direct split, so I'll open that up. It'll put a split right down the center of the design. You can program the distance and everything. Ultimately, what I'm trying to do is just create two separate complete designs. So I don't really care the distance right now because I'm going to make it, two colors. Click OK. Now I can also break it apart again. So let me break it apart by regions. And now it should separate all those pieces. It'll allow me to sort of grab one half of the design and group it together. We'll keep that black. Grab the other half of the design, group it together, and let's make that one pink. And so now when I grab the whole design and rotate it, I should have a really cool effect that I can do multicolored glitter on, making sure I have both objects sort of sizing together. And then that will, when it's applied, will go directly, that seam will be in between the two pieces. When you go to apply it, heat transfer films apply very well over seams if you do more pressure, especially glitter. But I've effectively now matched the garment, and it's something that's really going to come to life and stand out from the rest for decoration on the front. Everybody's doing left chest graphics on these. That's fine, but this is something that will stand out from the pack, and you may find yourself not even having to decorate the back of the jersey with this type of look. So just a creative way to take circle text to the next level and add it onto these oversized shirts. So we are approaching our conclusion time, and I want to thank you for all the questions that have come in. Hopefully Joe's been able to answer some of those. If you still have questions, know that our Stahls TV experts are going to be looking through everything that has come in tonight and providing feedback, and we'll post some of these on the forums and utilize them for upcoming tutorials. Either way, we wish you luck in decorating for Spiritwear with CadworxLIVE. We'd love to become your supplier of heat transfer film through Stahls.com and CAD Direct. So we'd recommend you check that out as well, where we do $5 flat rate shipping anywhere in the U.S. Via ground out of our Michigan, Texas, and Arizona warehouses. I'm Josh Ellsworth with Stahls TV. Thanks for watching tonight.